This week, we are going to expand what we know about HTML. We're going to be covering ordered and unordered lists. Ordered lists are either numbered list or using the alphabet ABC. Um, Unordered lists are bullets. We'll be learning about those. We will be learning how to create graphical tables. And then we're going to be learning CSS that is typically used with tables and lists. But the CSS that you're going to be learning, you can apply to paragraphs, to headings, really to literally anything. So you're going to start with the web-based readings, and they focus on those new areas of HTML and CSS that we're going to be covering this week. And then you're going to go into the lecture demo. And this pulls together all of that material that we are talking about. And the information that you're going to be learning this week on ordered and unordered lists, we are going to be using that information in lesson 10 to create menus, because menus are created from lists. Okay, so this is actually kind of important. As you go through here, you'll see links out to interactive sites where you can go and practice. And so when you go out to these sites to practice, you can see this is a numeric list, which is actually the default. So I can actually take this out and run it, and it's going to look the exact same. Okay, the type attribute by default is going to be numeric. But if I wanted to do alphabetic, I can change it. Okay, or if I wanted to do Roman numeral. Okay, so if I wanted to do lowercase alphabetic. Okay, so when I say come out here and practice, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, and you can even convert this into a bulleted list, right? You just change the O, and the O is for ordered. So that's how I remember them. Ordered, they have to be in a certain sequence. So they're going to be numbered or alphabetized. Bulleted lists are unordered. Okay, so they start with a U. And the default there is just, your traditional bullet. And like the ordered lists, you can change the way that the bullet looks. Okay, but the way that we change the way the bullet looks is we have to actually add a CSS style. And this is the style that we need to add. And then if we don't want the traditional bullet, we can change it to a square or a disk. So we've got our unordered list. And I'm going to say style equals list style type. Let's do a disk. All right, I'm going to run it. Maybe that will, or maybe that won't work. Let me paste it in here. Oh, I thought I did it right. Well, let's try a square. Okay, that did work. Let's try a circle. Ah, okay, so circle is the hollow one, and then we'll do a disk. So it is working. All right. Now, list style type, you can also use that with an ordered list. Okay. And we'll just double check on the values for that. Okay, so if we use list style type, Then we have to spell out what we want. Lower Roman, upper Roman, lower alpha, upper alpha. Okay, so it's a little harder to remember. Upper alpha. Okay, so a couple different ways to change the way they look. And that's why I have these interactive links here is for you guys to practice. We have description lists, which are kind of weird looking. They look like this. And they're basically, I would say, used for a definition where you've got some kind of a term and then you're going to define it. Okay, so this is your description list, opening DL, closing DL. You've got your term tag, and then you've got your definition tag. Okay. And with lists, you can nest them. I am going to warn you when you nest lists, the HTML validator does not like that. So if you have any nested lists in a page, it is going to mark it as an error, and it is not an error. I mean, it's perfectly legitimate, and it works to have a list inside another one like this. Absolutely not a problem, but it does confuse the HTML validator. Okay. After we talk about lists, we get into CSS borders and different ways of applying them. Okay. And borders are kind of fun, and they actually do kind of separate your page. Then we get into graphical tables and how you style them, because the way they look, this is how it looks if you don't style them. Doesn't really look much like a table. So you actually need the styling to kind of add the outline and, the lines below the cells and between the cells. And so that's what the styling is going to involve. So as you go through here, you'll be learning about those tables and table formatting and how to format individual cells. You'll also be learning how to merge cells. Okay, so if you have, in this case, one student that has multiple classes, you want to merge those cells together. So you can merge rows and you can also merge columns. And you're going to be learning how to do that. And then at the very bottom, you're going to learn how to use CSS to create columns like news columns. And it's actually really easy to do this. There's only a couple of CSS properties that you need to use to create that look. So we'll talk about that. And then once you're done, you are going to do the textbook assignment, which is going to give you practice using the different types of lists. And you'll also get practice with graphical table and using that column command. And for this, the textbook assignment directions, I have files for you to download. So you're going to start by creating your lesson folder, the media folder, and the CSS folder. Okay. And then you're going to download the files. Okay. I'm even giving you an external CSS file. Okay. And then once you get everything downloaded, then you are going to take the existing HTML and convert it over into the different types of lists. So this is not set up initially as a list. If we take a look at the crumb cake here, I did put the detail summary in. But if we take a look, this is not set up as a list. Okay, and that is what you are going to be changing. You're going to be adding in the HTML to create the list. Okay, and I'm showing it to you here. Okay, and then this is what it should look like when you're done. So once you get done putting those codes in and you're checking your page, it should look like this example. Okay, and then at the bottom in the instruction section, you'll be doing some nested lists, and then you'll be doing the term definition list. Right? And so definitely check to make sure that you've got all of that in your HTML. We actually, several tasks are going to be on this crumb cake recipe because once you've got all the HTML in there, then we're going to add some styling so it looks a little bit better. Okay, so we've got some styling for you to add. And then you're going to also add this styling here. And then the text at the top, you're going to be converting into a table. So this text is going to get converted into this little table. Okay, so that's what this section is doing. Okay, and you can see the table right here. Okay, and once you're done converting that to a table, you're done with the crumb cake. Okay, and then you're going to open Hitchcock movies, and what you're going to be adding to this is an entire table. Okay, and the video goes through how to do that. Okay, in fact, I kind of walk through creating that with you. And then you'll be adding some of the styling to the internal style sheet. We're going to be merging rows and columns, so you get practice doing that. Okay, and then finally, the last exercise is to create some news columns. Okay, and then once you're done, you are going to transfer everything in your Lesson 5 folder to the web. Okay, and this kind of outlines everything that you should have done. Okay, and once you're done with that, you are going to submit done to the Dropbox and move on to the lab assignment. And so for this, you guys are going to be creating your own pages. And your pages do need to adhere to our Title IX and our Student Code of Conduct. So kind of read through there and make sure you're not violating any of that. And then you will be creating a new page that uses lists and tables. These are your requirements. Okay. You have to have one ordered list, one unordered list, and at least one table. So you already have an example where you've got that, right? The crumb cake. I'm giving you another example, a resume, and you can literally create the page on whatever you want. Okay, so here is Jane Doe's resume, and you can see I do have the required information. And you might think, where's the table? The table is up here. Okay, that's how I got that stuff to align. So if you right click and go to view page source, you can see the table is right here. Okay, and you can literally do this on whatever you want. Okay, you do need to add styling. Okay, now that we know CSS, that is going to be required. I've got an example here of the properties that you can add. I don't have values because obviously, you guys got to do your own. You have to figure out what you want. If you need help with the CSS, please ask. I love working with CSS, so I'm happy to help you guys. You should have an inline style in the table tag indicating the width of the table. Okay. So here is an example of what that looks like. So that's part one. Part two is you're going to create a page using the news column format. So you've already got the breaking news that you've created. I'm giving you another example, which is just a poem that I broke into three. And obviously I didn't write it, so I did cite it down here. Okay. And I did put a raven in the background of the page, which you guys also know how to do now. Okay. You don't have to do that, but I thought it looked nice. So, whatever styling you want to put in there is fine. Once you're done with part two, you are going to update your assignment page with links. And then you are going to convert your paragraphs into lists, okay, unordered lists. And so you can do a find on the P and the angle bracket, replace that with an LI and an angle bracket. That'll change all your opening P's. And then you can put a slash in front of the P and a slash in front of the LI and replace all of those. That will do a lot of the work for you. However, at the top of each little list, you need an opening OL and you need a closing OL at the bottom. And each one of these is a separate list. Okay, so you're going to have to do a little extra typing in there, or UL, excuse me, it's an unordered list. But this is what it should look like when you're done. Okay, and so once you're done with that, you're going to transfer all of it to the web. Okay, and here's what I'm looking for when I'm scoring. And then you are going to submit done to the Dropbox. The last thing on here is an optional discussion. A lot of times people will find VS Code extensions that they think are useful. And so this is just for you guys to share VS Code extensions that you've added that you like. And I did include some resources here on VS Code extensions. And a lot of people like the color extensions. Okay, and so this is the name of the extension. Just tells you a little bit more information about it. And if you don't want to read it in here, you can actually click on that. Okay, so there's some resources I have on that. Here's a link to a video. Okay, if you prefer video. Oh, I think I got my computer frozen. Hold on a minute. All right, a little technical difficulties there, but I'm back. Um, and so, yeah, you can just look through these and see if there's anything useful. And you can also just go into VS Code, go into extensions. You can key in HTML5. Okay, and just see what comes up, and then you can read about them. Okay, and then if you find something you like, you can share it. So that is what we're working on this week. If you have any questions or if you run into problems, please let me know and have an awesome week.